There's a hotel you can check into right now. It has bulletproof windows, a private elevator that goes directly to your floor and only your floor, a panic button that summons a security team within minutes, and a staff so discreet, so well trained that they will never acknowledge you were even there. This isn't a movie set. This isn't fiction. This is a real hotel, and it's just one of several around the world that operate by a code that most people will never know exists. You've seen John Wick. You know the Continental, that elegant, rule-bound sanctuary where assassins check in, stay neutral, and conduct their business in the shadows, where the staff never flinches, where the concierge knows your name, your preferences, and exactly what you need before you ask. Most people watch that and think, cool concept, total fantasy. But here's the thing most people don't realize. The writers didn't invent the Continental out of thin air. They were inspired by something real, a culture that actually exists inside the most elite, secretive hotels on the planet. And today, I'm pulling back the curtain on all of it. We're talking about bulletproof suites designed for heads of state, concierges who can get you anything, and I mean anything, in under 2 hours. Plainclothes security teams made up of ex-CIA and special forces who are watching your every move without you even knowing it. And a real hotel in London that was literally used by MI6 spies during World War II, complete with secret tunnels and shadow meetings. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're never going to look at a luxury hotel the same way again. Let's start at the top. When John Wick walks into the Continental, there's a moment, you've probably noticed it, where everything just shifts. The noise of the outside world drops away. The staff glides around him like water. Nobody panics. Nobody stares. It's like entering a different dimension with its own rules, its own gravity. That feeling is real. And the closest thing to it in the actual world is a hotel in Geneva, Switzerland, called the Hotel President Wilson. From the outside, it looks like exactly what you'd expect from a 5-star hotel on Lake Geneva. Beautiful, elegant, the kind of place where diplomats have breakfast and billionaires make quiet phone calls with spectacular views. But go up to the top floor. Go to the Royal Penthouse Suite. This is where it gets interesting. The Royal Penthouse Suite at the Hotel President Wilson is one of the most expensive hotel rooms on the planet. We're talking somewhere around $80,000 per night, depending on the season. But the price tag isn't what makes it extraordinary. It's what the suite is built to do. The windows are bulletproof, every single one. Floor to ceiling, panoramic views of Lake Geneva, and not a single bullet is getting through that glass. The suite has its own private elevator, not a shared elevator with a code, a dedicated private lift that goes directly to your door and nowhere else. And then there's the panic button. One press and a private security team is mobilized. Not the front desk, not hotel security. A dedicated professional team trained specifically for threat response. Think about who actually stays there. Heads of state, royalty, high-profile business figures, people who have real, legitimate reasons to need that level of protection. The hotel isn't just selling luxury, it's selling a fortress with a beautiful view. And that's the first thing that makes this feel so much like the Continental. John Wick doesn't stay at a nice hotel. He stays at a sanctuary, a place engineered from the ground up to make powerful people feel untouchable. The Hotel President Wilson does exactly that, but the suite is just the beginning. Because what makes the Continental truly iconic isn't just the physical space, it's the people who run it. Let's talk about the staff, because this is where things get almost unbelievable. In John Wick, the concierge at the Continental is legendary. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't blink. He just handles things. Do you need a weapon cleaned and delivered? Done. You need a doctor who asks no questions? On their way. Do you need a reservation at a restaurant that's been fully booked for 6 months? Give him 20 minutes. Now, that sounds like pure fiction, but the culture of the elite hotel concierge is something that has quietly operated at this level for decades. Take the Ritz Paris, one of the most famous hotels in the world. And the concierge culture there has produced some genuinely legendary stories. There are accounts, some of them documented, some of them passed around in the industry, of Ritz concierges tracking down a vintage 1940s watch for a guest in under 2 hours, not calling a shop, actually locating a specific, rare, decades-old timepiece and having it delivered before dinner. There are stories of private jets being arranged during snowstorms when all commercial flights were grounded, of specific flowers that were out of season being sourced across international borders because a guest requested them. And here's what's important to understand about this. It's not luck. It's not who you know in any casual sense. It's a network. A deep, carefully cultivated network of relationships that top concierges spend years, sometimes decades, building. Contacts at auction houses, relationships with private pilots, connections to chefs, designers, and security professionals across multiple countries. The best concierges in the world operate like fixers, like the best producers in Hollywood, except instead of making movies, they make impossible things happen for people who don't accept the word impossible. One former concierge at a major London hotel described it this way in an interview. He said that guests at the highest level never asked if something could be done. They assumed it would be. And his job was to make sure that assumption was never wrong. Sound familiar? That's the Continental, almost word for word. But there's another layer to this that most people never think about. Because while you're marveling at what the concierge just pulled off, there's something else happening in that lobby that you probably didn't notice. You're being watched. Not in a creepy, uncomfortable way, in a completely invisible, extraordinarily professional way. The top hotels in Las Vegas, places like the Bellagio, the Wynn, the MGM Grand, and the elite hotels in New York City operate with security teams that most guests will never identify. Not because they're hidden in a back room staring at screens, because they're sitting at the bar next to you, walking through the lobby ahead of you, having what looks like a casual conversation near the elevators. These are plainclothes security operatives, and at the highest level of this industry, many of them are not just trained hotel security. They are former military, former intelligence, ex-special forces, ex-CIA, people who spent careers operating in environments where reading a room, identifying threats, and blending into any situation was a survival skill, not a job description. Now they're in a 5-star hotel, and they are extraordinarily good at what they do. And the technology backing them up is genuinely something out of a spy film. Facial recognition systems that cross-reference guest databases in real time. Behavioral analysis software that flags unusual movement patterns before a situation develops. Communication networks running on encrypted channels are so seamless that the person next to you could be relaying information without making a single visible gesture. Here's something that rarely gets reported. In some of the highest security hotels, particularly those that regularly host world leaders, celebrities, or ultra-high net worth individuals, the security briefing for an incoming VIP guest can involve coordination with actual government intelligence agencies, local law enforcement, Secret Service, MI5. The hotel doesn't just hand over a room, it temporarily becomes part of a larger security operation. And the guests? Most of them never see any of it. That's the whole point. In John Wick, the high table has eyes everywhere inside the Continental. Guards who look like guests, eyes that never miss anything. And the moment the rules are broken, the response is immediate and overwhelming. The real-world version is quieter, but it is absolutely there. Now, the next part of this is where history and espionage actually overlap. And this is the one that I think is the most fascinating. The Continental in John Wick operates as what the film calls a neutral zone, a place where the rules of the outside world are suspended, where powerful, dangerous people can coexist without conflict, because the ground they're standing on demands it. That concept didn't come from a screenwriter's imagination. It has a real historical precedent, and one of the most remarkable examples is a hotel in London that still stands today. St. Ermin's Hotel, Westminster, London, walking distance from the Houses of Parliament. During World War II, this hotel became one of the most strategically significant buildings in Britain, not because of military hardware or government meetings, but because of the people who moved quietly through its corridors. The Special Operations Executive, Winston Churchill's elite intelligence and sabotage organization, tasked with what he famously called setting Europe ablaze, used St. Ermin's Hotel as one of its key operational hubs. Agents were recruited there, operations were planned there, information was exchanged in the hotel's bars and lounges, hidden in plain sight among the ordinary guests. The hotel had physical infrastructure that supported this, tunnels connecting it to nearby buildings, spaces that could be accessed discreetly, and a culture of discretion that made it ideal for the kind of shadow work that defined wartime intelligence. And here's what makes this so striking. The The hotel was simultaneously operating as a completely normal luxury hotel. People were having dinner there, having afternoon tea, business meetings, completely unaware that somewhere nearby a conversation was happening that might redirect the course of a covert operation in occupied France. That is the neutral zone, hiding in full sight, operating by a different set of rules within the physical space of something that looks entirely normal. St. Ermin's today still carries that history. They're actually quite open about it. They've embraced the spy heritage. There's a cocktail bar that references it. The history is documented. But the deeper point is that the concept isn't a fantasy. There have always been places where the powerful, the dangerous, and the influential meet on shared ground, and where the rules of that ground protect everyone inside it, regardless of what's happening outside. John Wick's Continental isn't a new idea. It's a very old one. So let's bring this together, because I think there's something genuinely fascinating about why this resonates with so many people. The world of John Wick works because it has rules, a code, a structure underneath the chaos. And the hotels at the center of that world represent something we all understand instinctively. The idea of a place where you can step out of the noise, where the right people will take care of everything, and where a different set of standards apply. What we've looked at today tells us that this idea isn't pure fantasy. The Hotel President Wilson in Geneva actually builds suites designed to protect the most powerful people alive. The concierge culture at places like the Ritz Paris has produced real, documented cases of what can only be described as impossible requests, fulfilled without hesitation. The security apparatus inside elite hotels in Vegas and New York is genuinely sophisticated, genuinely invisible, and staffed by people with genuine intelligence and military backgrounds. And St. Ermin's Hotel in London was a literal wartime intelligence hub, a real neutral zone where the shadow world operated inside a luxury building. The Continental is fiction, but the instincts that created it, the culture it reflects, the world it hints at, that's been around for a long time. And if you know where to look, you can still find it. Every high-end hotel has a concierge who knows more than they're saying. Every lobby has eyes you haven't identified. Every city has a building where the powerful meet quietly, and where what happens inside stays inside. You just have to know what you're looking at.